At 0619 local time, the USS Abraham Lincoln was busy delivering democracy 2,000 pounds at a time to Iran, when suddenly their routine morning was shattered. An orbiting Hawkeye detected the undeniable signature of 4 inbound ballistic missiles and dozens of other air contacts. The carrier and her 2 destroyers have just seconds to react. On board the USS Spruance, her spy radar paints 30 contacts at low altitude, staggered line pushing south out of the coastal haze at barely 100 knots. 90 miles east, the USS Michael Murphy sees 28. The tactical action officer on the Spruance, the TAO, the officer responsible for every weapon system on the ship, classifies in 4 seconds one-way attack drones. The cheap Iranian kind, each one worth less than a used pickup truck, but each one carrying enough explosive to gut an engine room or shred a radar antenna. He doesn't waste a second. The ship's 1MC blares across every speaker on the vessel. General quarters, general quarters. All hands man your battle stations up and forward down the starboard side, down and out to port. Reason for general quarters, inbound air contacts. Every hatch slams shut. Sailors sprint to repair lockers. The MH-60 Romeo helicopter claws off the flight deck and banks east toward its picket station. Hellfire's on the rails. Door gunner already scanning the surface. On the signal bridge, 2 sailors wrestle a drone restricted access using known EW or Drake. Think of it as the ship broadcasting a fake version of itself miles from where it actually is. Like if someone sent a hitman to your house, but you swapped your house number with the neighbor you've never liked. He shows up at the wrong door and you watch the confusion from your living room window. On the Murphy, the same announcement, the same sprint to battle stations. At 9 miles on the Spruce, the MK-45-15 gun you see here swings to the drone, bearing and opens fire. 70-pound shells with variable time fuses. The expanding fragmentation ring does the work from 30 m out, which means the gun doesn't need a direct hit. It just needs to be close. First air burst drops 2 drones. A third absorbs fragments, loses 1 engine, keeps flying on the other. The auto-loader cycles at 20 rounds per minute, while loaders in the deep magazine feed shells into the breech in a rhythm the crew can feel through their boots. Lock, break, slew, reacquire. 3 seconds per cycle, 400 m of closure in the gap. 24 contacts. 21, 90 miles east. The Murphy's 5 in is running the same drill. The Foxhole 50 caliber crews pick up the ones the 5 in can't reach. 25,000 feet above both ships. The Hawkeye updates its ballistic track report. 4 warheads now at apogee beginning descent. 15 minutes to Lincoln impact, the report goes to every ship in the strike group. The Spruance and Murphy logs it and keeps shooting drones. There's nothing else that either of them can do about it right now. The Spruance is down to 18 drone contacts when the junior officer of the deck watching the surface radar breaks the rhythm entirely. Surface contacts bearing 085, fast movers 40 knots inbound. IRGC fast attack craft. Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps speedboat screaming in from the east. Some rigged as one-way attack vessels with enough explosive packed into the bow to punch a hole through a destroyer's hull on contact. The 5 in is pointed north at 18 drones still inbound. The boats are east, 1 main battery, 2 bearings, and no version of this map that works out cleanly. The ship heels hard to port at flank speed. The goal is to throw a wall of white water off the stern. It doesn't sink 50-foot boats, but it turns a coordinated wolf pack into a scattered mess. A dozen boats. Attacking together can overwhelm a ship's defenses. The same dozen boats attacking one at a time are just target practice. Breaking their formation forces them to slow down and reapproach. And that buys time. Time is the only currency the crew has left. The Mk-38 stabilized 25 mm cannon you see here finds the lead aircraft at 2,500 meters through a deck, rolling 15 degrees and walks traces across the water until the engine housing detonates. The MH-60 Romeo handles the second. A hellfire into the hull, clean and decisive. The helicopter has 7 missiles left. The remaining boats scatter to regroup. 90 miles east, The Murphy surface radar produces the same call 30 seconds later. 8 fast attack craft bearing 270 coming from shallow coastal water to the west. Murphy's TAO has 16 drones still inbound from the north and 8 boats inbound from the west. And his 5-in can point in exactly one of those directions. He swings it west at the boats because a boat loaded with several thousand pounds of explosives is the more dangerous target. He accepts the risk on the north bearing and puts the Mk-38 and the 50 cows on the drones, while the 5-in engages the watercraft. It's not a clean solution. There is no clean solution. He makes the call and lives with it. The boats take 3 minutes to suppress. By then, the drone count on the Murphy is back down to 9. All optical guidance, all still inbound. And the 5-in swings north again. On the Spruance, the fast boats are running and the drone count is 8. The CIWS takes over on the leakers, 20 over 4,000 rounds per minute, fully autonomous. Because at terminal range, there's no time left for human authorization. If R2-D2 had an older brother who skipped the charm and went straight into anger management, this is what he'd look like. A white dome on the deck that spins toward anything it doesn't like and erases it from the sky. It's C. SA Contact classifies it and fires. Several drones enter its engagement envelope and cease to exist. For approximately 4 seconds, the crews breathe. Then both EW operators break the silence. Vampire, vampire, vampire. The call comes in on the Spruance first, then the Murphy 11 seconds later. A shore-based anti-ship missile battery on the Mark coast has been building a passive targeting solution for the last 45 minutes. Watching, not transmitting, accumulating bearing and speed data on both destroyers without ever radiating long enough to attract attention. It just sat there in the dark, listening to the ship's own emissions, piecing together their speed and heading the way a poker player reads tails without ever showing his own cards. And it picked this moment deliberately. Both ships just burned precious minutes fighting drones and fast boats. The drones and the boats were never meant to sink anything. They were the opening act designed to drain ammunition, exhaust operators, and point every weapon system on both ships in the wrong direction for what's coming next. The Nor anti-ship missiles, Iran's domestically refined copy of the Chinese Charlie 802, sea skimming at 5 meters altitude. Inside the nose, an active radar seeker searches for the destroyers with 165 kilograms of warhead. And they're already off the rails before the TAO can fully process the EW report. 4 missiles, wave-top altitude, closing at just under the speed of sound from the northwest. The geometry is intentional. The battery fired at the moment when both ships had minimum engagement time and maximum distraction. The Spruance has 9 drones still on the outer engagement envelope. The Murphy has 7. Neither TAO can simply ignore one problem and address the other. They have to manage both at the same time with whatever is left in the magazine. While a third crisis, 4 ballistic warheads, the Hawkeyes, been tracking for 13 minutes, continues its descent toward the Lincoln. 13 minutes. Neither destroyer can touch them. That hasn't changed. The Spruance TAO keys the VLS for the first time all morning. 3 SM-2s punch out of the forward cells the SPG-62 fire control illuminators, the radar beams that guide the SM-2 to its target in the terminal phase. Like a cat following a laser pointer, slew northwest and begin time sharing 4 inbound mains. Every illuminator on the ship abandons the drone bearing. The folks' 50 cows are all that remains on the drones. Chaff rockets off the launcher, broadcasting radar signatures larger than the ship itself. The nautical equivalent of setting off a car alarm across the street to pull attention away from your door. The ship heels hard to starboard at flank speed to complicate the North Seeker's terminal geometry by presenting the smallest radar cross-section possible. On the Murphy, the same sequence, 2 SM-2s out, illuminators northwest. 7 drones now unengaged on the north bearing except for the Fowl, which is autonomous and will handle what it can. The Murphy's Drake bubble has been running since general quarters and has already bent several drone flight paths into empty ocean. But the optical guidance ones are unfazed by it, and closing on a hole that currently has every sophisticated weapon pointed in a different direction. 25,000 feet above them, the Hawkeye pushes another ballistic track update to the strike group. 4 warheads descending 12 minutes to Lincoln impact, Mach 5, and accelerating into terminal phase. But what neither the Spruance nor the Murphy knew, what nobody in either combat information center had been told, was that a third American destroyer had been watching the entire engagement unfold without saying a word. The Frank Petersen Jr., the strike group's dedicated ballistic missile defense ship, has been watching the E engagement unfold on the net since 0619. Her CIC has been library quiet, not because her crew wasn't working, but because they have one job and it hasn't arrived yet. The watchstanders tracked every engagement from both destroyers. They said nothing. They conserved the magazine. The Petersen carries SM-3 missiles, in addition to the standard SM-2 and SM-6 missiles. The SM-3 is an exospheric interceptor, which means it leaves the Earth's atmosphere entirely to do its job. Think of it as hitting a bullet with another bullet, except both bullets are traveling at 10 times the speed of sound, and one of them is in space. The intercept vehicle separates from the rocket in the exosphere and physically collides with the target. If it misses by a meter, the warhead hits the Lincoln. The TAO has been building intercept solutions since the ballistic tracks first appeared on the Hawkeye report. He has 4 tracks and 4 SM-3s. He's been waiting for the geometry to solve cleanly. 100 miles to the north, the DDGS are still in a fight for their lives. Spruance first, nor at 11 miles flash on the horizon. Illuminator slew to the next track. Second at 8 miles. The third and fourth nor 2 miles after that. None reach the hole. The Spruce is intact. On the Murphy, the geometry is uglier. 3 SM-2s for 2 inbound nors, but her illuminators are time-sharing because she fired 3 rounds at 3 targets and has 3 SPG-62s to guide them. Here's the problem. An SM-2 can't see on its own in the final seconds of flight. It needs the ship to hold a radar beam on the target, like a flashlight moving a bird so someone else can shoot it. The Murphy has 3 flashlights for 3 missiles coming from different angles at just under the speed of sound, and every time she flicks between them, the missile flies blind for 400 meters. The first SM-2 connects at 9 miles. The second loses its target on one of O's blind spots. When the Murphy maneuvers, hard to climb the miss. 2 more SM-2s leave the rails. They hit their targets 6 miles out. The Murphy is intact. But while Iran did not score a single hit, they managed to waste time from the real threat, those ballistic missiles. Inside the Petersen CIC, the TAO finally has the intercept solutions he's been waiting for. 3 of the 4 tracks are clean, stable deceleration, predictable arcs, the geometry the Aegis BMD system was built for. The 4th is wrong. Lower trajectory, irregular deceleration that doesn't match a standard Shahed 3 reentry profile. On the Lincoln's flight deck, the catapult officer steps back from a Super Hornet sitting on the Cat with both engines at military power. An SM-3 at altitude doesn't distinguish between an Iranian warhead and a fully fueled American fighter. The deck goes cold. Every aircraft stops. The busiest flight deck in the 5th Fleet goes quiet and watches smoke rise from a Destroyer 5N to their north. 5 SM-3s leave the Petersen cells in 5 seconds. The rockets burn through the atmosphere and intercept vehicles separate in the exosphere. Above the weather, above the air, above everything except the 4 tracks falling toward a carrier and the cold mathematics of closing geometry. A kinetic impactor the size of a carry-on bag traveling at Mach 10 plus, steered by a seeker that has to solve a calculus problem in real time that would take a human mathematician years, finding a re-entry vehicle the size of a refrigerator at the top of the atmosphere. 3 clean impacts in rapid sequence. 3 red tracks stop updating. CIC exhales. 3 down. Then the 4th track splits. At 70,000 feet, the radar return separates. One object decelerating hard, the signature of a decoy releasing and shedding velocity deliberately, the other holding full terminal speed. The SM-3 assigned to that track was built to handle this. Its intercept vehicle reacquires the faster object, the one that isn't slowing down, the one that still has somewhere to be, and adjusts, not by much, by enough. Impact. The re-entry vehicle comes apart above the atmosphere. Debris burns on the way down. 4 of 4. The deck on the Lincoln comes alive again. It's time to handle a thank you card to the Iranians for their gift this morning. The Hawkeye has had the ballistic launch coordinates since 0619, Valley Floor Grid Reference Bearing Lock, from the moment those motors lit. And now Iran was in their find out phase. 2 FA-18s from BFA-41 Black Aces push off the Lincoln's waste catapults. The EA-18 Growler from BAQ-133 launches behind them. The electronic warfare variant carrying the ALQ-249 Next Generation Jammer instead of weapons. The ALQ-249 doesn't shoot anything. It transmits flooding Iranian radar frequencies with enough interference that any coastal air defense operators still had a scope, sees what looks like an equipment failure, and not 2 Super Hornets flying north at low altitude into his country. The package pushes into Iranian airspace and climbs. The lead Hornet's Wizzo Weapon Systems officer, the backseater running the targeting pod while the pilot flies, sweeps the coastal highway east of JASP with the ATF FLIR. The advanced targeting forward-looking infrared system resolves individual vehicles at ranges that would embarrass a reconnaissance satellite through a field of view roughly the size of a toilet paper tube, cargo trucks, fuel haulers, buses. Somewhere in that southbound flow, Forel's transporter erector launchers, the heavy military trucks that carry ballistic missiles, are running for the blast doors at 35 kilometers H. Behind those doors, reload racks, fresh Shahed 3S, the ability to do this again tomorrow. That cannot happen. First terminal bloom at 16 miles, residual heat seeping through a truck chassis from a solid rocket motor that fired less than an hour ago. Still cooking through the frame. The Wizzo slew south. Another bloom. 2 more staggered in the southbound lane, already slowing for the turnoff that leads to the tunnel approach road. Dealer 11. Fuel state 7.2. 7,200 pounds. 22 minutes to fly home with a legal fuel reserve. 18 minutes usable over target. The tells reach the tunnel mouth in 4. Then in the corner of his eye, the pilot sees a shape move in the tree line on the south hillside. An infrared bloom climbs off the slope. A man-PADS crew. A man-portable air defense system is 1 soldier with a shoulder-fired heat-seeking missile that produces 0 radar warning, 0 launch indication, nothing, until a bright point rises off the ground towards your exhaust nozzle. The wingman calls it 2 seconds after ignition. Brake right defending. Flares dump in sequence. The missile chases one into the hillside. The wingman pulls off target, nose high, losing airspeed and attack position both, and it costs him 90 seconds he doesn't have. By the time he rolls wings level and reacquires the highway, the front pair of tails has covered another 200 m toward the turn. The lead checks 4 things in the same second. Fuel stayed at 15 minutes usable and dropping at FLIR, showing the front tail 100 m from the entrance road turn. The wingman still climbing back to attack altitude, with another 60 seconds before he can re-enter the fight, and a second IR bloom moving south through the tree line. A different crew repositioning along the ridgeline to cut off the attack angle. The lead just flew through. 2 man-PADS cruise in the trees. 1 aircraft currently in a position to make a pass. 60 seconds before the wingman is back. 90 seconds before those trucks are behind blast doors that won't reopen until the next launch order. Dealer 1-2, back in 60. The Eid doesn't answer. He's already rolling in. The front 2 tails fill the ad-flare crosshairs. Ground crew on infrared scrambling ground chassis, disconnecting umbilicals. 1 figure already running for the tree line on a vector that suggests he's made a correct assessment of his immediate future if he stayed put. Lead pickles. 2 GBU-30s drop off the rails and the jet pumps with the weight loss. Guidance fins snapping open. GPS steering 500 pounds per bomb toward trucks still moving when the weapons arrive. Both detonate within the same second. The valley floor comes apart. Secondary fires climb from ruptured fuel systems. The wingman is already in his roll-in. 2 more GBU-38s. Clean releases. The Atlar captures the tunnel entrance in the frame. Open. Blast doors retracted, empty of everything that was supposed to drive through them. The package turns south. Fuel gauges touching amber. The Growler holds its jamming orbit for another 90 seconds, then peels away. ALQ 249 transmitting until the aircraft are feet wet over the Gulf, and there's nothing left worth jamming. If you like this video, then watch our video on the open day of Operation Epic Fury.